God's alternative to globalism. There is not one but two worlds and two realities. Those who look for more will not find them. Those who think there is but one are globalists. These deniers of the two-reality hypothesis are antichrist and unbiblical. Regardless of how strange this hypothesis sounds to you or what reasons you give to discredit or disqualify the claim, no one can disprove it, not biblically and not philosophically. The claim, there are two realities, can be substantiated with a small amount of reading and thought. But to prove it requires disconnecting from the theology of globalism and embracing a biblical perspective. The point is that globalism cannot be fixed from within its theology. Critics of the Bible can think they are on the right or the left, because which side you embrace is immaterial to globalism. Your actions will at best slow the globalist agenda down, at worst, turn you into an atheist. The one thing we can be sure of, any action taken in this reality will not reverse the trend towards globalism, let alone eliminate it. This is not a conventional war. We are not faced with a physical enemy. There is no field of battle to meet the Antichrist on. The war is a battle of ideas. The key concept in the enemy's arsenal is democracy. The people have no right to rule, but evil is predicated on the belief we do. The people have no right to rule what belongs to God. There is only one response for Christians to make, and it is twofold. We have to get out of the system that leads to globalism, and we need to slam the door behind us. Until we do this, we are globalists whatever else we claim to be. Eliminating democracy and its variants is technically not difficult. We only need to stop feeding the beast. This is a call for faith. We need a church because we need an institution we control directly, but more importantly, we need an institution separate from the globalist system. Blocking globalists is the hard part and requires a systemic approach. This is why believers must get out from the globalist system. If all we do is have an election, we remain under the power of the beast, we will remain part of the system that created and controls democracy. Democracy is the thin edge of the wedge. The people do not have the power. In the church, God holds all the power. The pastor does not have the right or power to take power from the church and assign it to the state. It is voting to give our conscience over to the state that gives an opening for evil to take control of us. At the heart of democracy is the agreement we make to put ourselves under a globalist authority in opposition to the church. Democrats confuse the issue by claiming the only alternative to the power of the people is the power of the autocrat. This is a false dichotomy, since democracy is the mob expressing itself through an autocrat. Democrats console themselves with the thought that if things do not work out, the elected representative can be changed for a different one. But the trend remains towards globalism. This was also the argument used when monarchy was replaced by democracy. One might do well under a monarch, but there was no guarantee and no way to remove royalty other than death. Presidents and prime ministers could be removed by an election, assuming the political leader was willing to have elections and abide by them. But once a politician was elected and invested with power, there was not much that prevented him or her from becoming an autocrat. Even if the ruler permitted elections and abided by the results, for the 4 years in power, rulers have few restraints on what they do. The mob does not pose a threat to a tyrant, because the mob is often friendly to the policies of the tyrant. Mobs can and are bought off. What the state and the tyrant needs is open access to the wealth of the world. Parasites need more than access to land in its raw state. Parasites do not develop wealth, they expropriate it. Despite the idea that the world is ideally suited for life, nature in its raw state is not friendly to human life. What we use has to be processed, whether we are talking about food or shelter or clothing. Clothes are not even something animals need. Humans are, in this sense, dependent on their ability to process nature into usable products. This requires organization and work. Admittedly, man can survive in a subsistence culture, and he can eke out a living on the basis of craft manufacture, but civilization requires a high level of specialization. State power requires access to the wealth we create. We are the means to the state, but the state sees itself as a justified end. Adam Smith was the first to explain how complex tasks broken down into its smallest components enable production to increase many-fold. However, this kind of specialization at the highest level requires technology. Conveyor belts that bring the work to the workstation enables higher outputs than when the worker has to move things into place. But this hides another kind of problem. Capitalism and communism are considered to be two very different ways of organizing labor. Yet they have a crucial feature in common. Communism and capitalism both have employers and employees. Both split the production process into an administrative elite and a laboring class. Marx felt labor was alienated from his work because the worker never got to own what he produced. Neither communism or capitalism are biblical. Neither prove the worker what he or she is owed. The church is owned by those who build the church because these are the church. The true owner is not the people generally, nor the investor but the church builder, the one who adds value to the people of faith, for these are the church. But not all work is created equal. Not all human activity adds value. Management is a class of employment, so is social work and employment by government. But work is not just the expenditure of energy. A truck sitting and idling is not doing any work. A group of government employees calculating how much money to take from workers are not themselves doing any work. If all a person does is force workers to subsidize parasites, their actions result in a net loss to the economy. If we view globalism as the ownership of the world by the most powerful, globalism is also the creation of a single hierarchy. The richest persons sit at the apex. Globalists redistribute wealth to maintain their power. If the system is not entirely globalist, there still being national governments, globalism will look for ways to nations more integrated. Different treaties and international organizations will be created to allow for greater assimilation. All international organizations serve to strengthen globalism. All international organizations help push national governments towards a single one-world government that owns and controls everything. The church is not compatible with the state or the power of the people that gives rise to the state. But the church has become compromised and largely incorporated into the globalist agenda. The church was supposed to be separate from the state. The church was supposed to be governed by those who do works of faith. But the church has taken on a largely globalist agenda. The church is governed by faith and designed to produce works of faith, not serve as the handmaiden of the state. The church has a higher purpose than that which is decided by the state. The state exists for its own purpose. This existence for its own purpose defines the state as an idol. In the understanding of the state, humans exist to serve the interests of the state. God is pushed aside by the state, because the state is the only concern of the state. The church exists as a vehicle through which believers achieve perfection. Man under God exists in his or her own right. We are not a means to an end defined by an authoritarian. We are perfected by our willingness to create value for God, using what belongs to God. This is the philosophy known as Biblicism. The Bible is the answer to all of our problems. It contains, explicitly or implicitly, answers to all of our questions. Biblicism is the apologetic of the perfected. Biblicists are the ones who create value in the church, as the church, for the church, even if this is not what they call themselves. Our purpose as Christians, as understood by Biblicists, is to seek perfection within the church, separate from the world. Only in perfection can we fulfill our purpose and realize our full potential, as Christians. Biblicists consider that we own what we produce, and no one has a claim on what is produced by another. Biblicists are not a means to an end, we are the fulfillment of our purpose. A Biblicist believes no one has a right to what we create because we can own only what we create. Rulers have no right to own anything we created, nor do rulers have the right to control anything we formed. By claiming what they did not create, the state is a source of oppression. When a person is oppressed, he or she exists for the benefit of someone else. The oppressed have no value other than the value given to them by their oppressor. We are made in the image of God. Our glory belongs to us. This is our right, the right of all Christians. We pay no one who has not added value to what they have, because they have no claim over what they did not create. Rights cannot be stolen or borrowed. No one has a claim on anything they did not create. This is logical and it is sustainable. It is only if we implement 2 Thessalonians 3 verses 10 to 13 that globalism will be defeated. The one world hypothesis is the engine that drives the globalist agenda. In this understanding, there is only one reality and everything in it is governed by physical laws. In the physical view of things, the universe is running down. What existed at the beginning powers everything in the present and future. All we can do is channel this power into as many things